My parents gave my brother a luxury car, and me, just one. Okay, guys, I need to tell you something that happened at my brother's graduation. Seriously, even now I can't really swallow what happened. I always knew I wasn't my parents' favorite child, but that day it became more than clear, and it hurt like hell. That week, the house became a stage just for him. My parents couldn't stop talking about how much he deserved everything. The success, the opportunities, the good life he was going to have. I stood aside, trying to pretend I was happy, but inside, it was a knot that wouldn't let go of my chest. I had the feeling that I had no place there. My mother then didn't even hide it. All the pride, all the investment, all the love, at least the way they showed it, was just for my brother. Just the other, which, according to them, still had to find itself. I spent the days before graduation trying not to think about it too much, trying to believe that there would be something for me too, some surprise, some recognition, something that showed that I mattered. But as the day approached, my anxiety only grew. Everything in the house was for him. The parties, the plans, the expensive gift they were going to give, a luxury car that he always wanted. While they celebrated and got excited, I was in the corner, invisible. The looks, the conversations, the smiles, nothing was for me. I just asked myself, would they ever look at me the same way? Do I deserve anything? But soon graduation day arrived, and things got worse. On the day of the party, everyone was excited, kind of mesmerized by my brother. He opened the gift that my parents gave him, a luxury car, one of those machines that we only see in YouTube videos or on TV. Shining, brand new, perfect. His smile was the kind that we know is not just because of the car, but because of everything it represented. Success, approval, status. And of course, my parents were there, proud, taking photos, praising him, making sure everyone saw what they had achieved for him. I stood there, half still, trying to be happy for my brother, but it hurt too much. I couldn't swallow that absurd difference. In their heads, that made sense. He was the son who deserved all of that. What bothered me was more than the present itself. It was what I was feeling inside. This feeling that I was forgotten, invisible, less important. I try not to let it show, but sadness tightened my chest. My uncles, cousins, everyone praising their brother, talking about his future. And I was there, in the corner, feeling like there was no place for me at that party. That car wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of everything they believed I wasn't. And that hurt like hell. When the party ended and the attention returned to me, I thought there would be some surprise for me too. Maybe a gesture, a smaller gift, anything. But what happened was the opposite, and then everything turned upside down. After all that partying, I hoped that my parents would at least make a gesture toward me. Something, however small, to acknowledge that I was there too, that my presence mattered. But no, instead, a few hours later, my mother called me and handed me an envelope. It even seemed like a joke. With that forced smile, she said it was my graduation present. I opened it, curious and already a little suspicious. And what was inside? An account. A huge bill, indeed. A sheet full of debts that my parents had accumulated, loans, cards, late payments. All my name. It's only fair, son, my mother said, as if it were something normal, almost a prize. You will help us solve this, just like your brother will receive all the best. I froze. I wanted to believe it was a bad joke, that she was going to say, I'm kidding at any moment. But no, it was real. At that moment, the full weight of favoritism and inequality hit me like a punch in the stomach. While my brother got a luxury car to celebrate his graduation, I got a bunch of debt to pay off, a gift I couldn't refuse. My head wouldn't stop. It was a mixture of anger, sadness, frustration, and shame. How could they expect me to just accept that I was complicit in their failures, while the other son was treated like a king? I felt betrayed, devalued, and used. It wasn't fair. I hadn't asked to carry the weight of their debts. I hadn't asked to be responsible for the consequences of bad decisions. And more than that, I no longer wanted to be that invisible child, the one who only shows up to solve problems and pay bills. I told them all this. I tried to explain that it wasn't a gift, that I couldn't accept a debt that wasn't mine. But my mother just smiled in that strange, emotionless way. It's only fair, son. That's how it works in life. Your brother gets the good things. You help hold the line. I couldn't take it. I picked up my things, packed a suitcase, and left their house that same night. I needed time away to breathe, to understand who I was outside of that scenario, full of unfair demands and expectations. Without telling anyone, I disappeared for weeks. And it was only after this disappearance that they started calling, sending messages, begging me to come back, to sort things out. But for me, things had changed forever. It was weeks away from home. No calling, no news. Just me, my thoughts, and the feeling of being freed from that invisible prison that was my family. I needed this time to find myself again, understand where I wanted to go, and above all, to protect myself from those absurd demands. I thought they would forget me, move on with their lives, and that the story of the gift they gave me would remain in the past. But he was wrong. It was one afternoon when I least expected it that the phone rang. On the display, my mother's number. My heart raced, mixing anger, fear, and a huge desire to know what they were going to say after so long. To wait. On the other end of the line, a different voice. Scared, almost pleading. Please, son, we didn't mean that. It wasn't supposed to be like that. We made a mistake. We didn't know how to do it differently. I remained silent, half in disbelief. That phone call sounded like a desperate attempt to hold on to something that had already slipped out of their hands. My mother continued, almost crying. We are deep in debt, and we don't want to lose you too. We just needed help. We didn't want you to leave like that. I took a deep breath, trying to control the mix of feelings that overwhelmed me. The truth is, no matter how hurt I was, there was still a love there, a connection that wouldn't break overnight. But I had already made my decision. It was no longer about me being the son who always accepted everything, who carried the weight of their failures. I needed to protect myself. I said I needed time, that I couldn't just go back and forget everything that happened, that it needed respect, and that they needed to understand that justice was not pushing debts onto others. They stood quietly on the other side, knowing they'd crossed a line they might never be able to erase. After that conversation, things became clearer to me, not just about what I wanted from my family, but also about what I deserved. I wanted to be more than a name on their payroll. I wanted to be seen, recognized, loved without conditions. And as difficult as it was, that phone call was the beginning of my decision to change everything, to rebuild my life away from the injustices that marked me. After that phone call, I knew I couldn't just go back to my parents' house like nothing had happened. But it had touched me deeply. It wasn't just about money or debts. It was about respect, love, and recognition that I never got there. So I decided it was time to do something different. I needed to put myself first, understand what I really wanted for my life without carrying the weight of their expectations and demands. I found a small place to live away from all that. I started working odd jobs, saving every penny, even if it was little. The feeling of autonomy was liberating. It was difficult, of course, but it was also my choice, and that made all the difference. Meanwhile, my parents continued trying to contact me, sending messages, calling several times a day, always asking me to come back, to resolve things as a family. But I was no longer the same. I tried to explain many times that love is not a demand, that recognition is not a debt, that family is not just those who are at the same address, but those who respect who you really are. It was a tough process, and to be honest, I didn't always have the strength to deal with everything. Sometimes the loneliness was overwhelming, and the longing was strong. But looking back, I know that fresh start was what I needed, because for the first time, I was living my story at my pace with my choices, and that, in the end, is worth more than any material gift, no matter how expensive it may be. Here I am, writing this to you on Reddit, because I needed to vent and maybe find someone who has been through something similar. You know that feeling of being in the middle of a family that seems to have separate teams, where one child is treated as the favorite and the other only appears to solve problems and carry the weight of the parents' decisions. My parents bought my brother a luxury car for graduation. I tried to pretend I was happy. But the truth is, when I opened my present and saw the debt bill, everything inside me collapsed. It wasn't just the money, you know? It was the weight of injustice, of indifference, of the expectation they had of me, that I was a walking stool, while the other was the prince of the house. I know that every family has its complications, and not everything is black and white. But for me, that day marked the end of an era. I needed to step away, to breathe, to rediscover myself. And as difficult as it was, this separation was the best thing that happened in my life. I learned that love is not a debt, that respect is the basis of any relationship, and that I deserve to be valued for who I am, not for what I can pay. I know my parents may never fully understand this, and that's okay. My priority now is my mental health, my peace, and building a life that is mine. For anyone reading this who feels trapped in a similar situation, I can only say you're not alone. Sometimes the best choice is to walk away and find yourself. And if you can, seek help, seek support. Don't carry this load alone. Thank you for listening to me. You people on Reddit are my chosen family.